Let me cover that for you, ma'am. That's all I said, and the room froze like I'd shouted a curse. The old woman in front of me looked so small, her coat threadbare hands trembling as she clutched a can of soup, half a loaf of bread, and a carton of milk. She whispered, "I didn't realize it would cost that much," and the cashier, with her bright nails and smirk, leaned over and said, "Well, this ain't a food bank." My stomach twisted. I grabbed my wallet. "I got it," I told her. I never saw the slap coming. Tom, the store manager, stormed over his face, red spit flying as he barked, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Maya, you think this is your store now?" He smacked me so hard my cheek burned. The old woman gasped. Someone dropped a basket, but nobody moved. "That woman needed help," I whispered, shaking. He leaned close, voice dripping with venom. "She's not your responsibility. Neither are you anymore. You're fired. Get out." I walked out of that store with tears blurring my vision, but what I didn't see was the old woman at the door. She didn't look scared anymore. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, like she'd just watched something she'd been waiting for. The next morning I went back not because I wanted my job, but because I wasn't going to let that cashier shove her out again. Sure enough, there she was blocking the woman's path, laughing. "Not you again. Go beg somewhere else." My heart pounded, but I stepped in front of her. "She's a human being. You don't get to treat people like this." Tom came charging in, smirk, already curling his lips. "I told you you're done here, Maya. Leave or I'll call security." "I'm not going anywhere," I said, my voice shaking but steady. "Not until you stop treating people like trash." Then the door slid open and in walked a man I'd only seen on magazine covers. Sleek suit, cold blue eyes, 2 assistants trailing him like shadows. Andrew Whitman, Billionaire CEO of Whitman Grocers. The air shifted instantly. Tom stuttered. "Sir, Andrew raised a hand, calm but sharp. "She doesn't need security," he said, nodding at me. "She needs a promotion. You need to clear your desk." The store fell silent. Andrew stepped beside the old woman, laying a hand on her shoulder. "This woman is my mother. She came here in disguise to see how we treat customers and workers, and all she found was humiliation, except for one person who stood up for her." He turned back to me. "What's your name?" My throat was dry. "Maya Jameson." He looked me dead in the eye. "Effective immediately, Maya Jameson is our new Director of Community Outreach. You'll have an office, a salary, and the authority to make sure this never happens again." I barely made it home that night. My mama Lillian was stirring soup with her arthritic hands, Belle. My 10-year-old niece sketching on the couch. Mama saw my bruise, frowned. "Don't lie to me, baby. That's not nothing." I told her everything about the slap that disguised Andrew's arrival. She just nodded. "You did right. That's all that matters." I sat there staring at my calloused hands, wondering if I was in over my head. The next morning, I walked into Whitman's glass headquarters feeling like a speck of dust in a cathedral. The receptionist looked me up and down with that polite pity that says you don't belong. But Andrew met me with a warm handshake. "I'm not promoting you for optics," he said. "You showed moral clarity under pressure. That's leadership." My voice trembled. "I've never led anything. Just cleaned floors." He smiled. "Then you've already led more than most." I returned to that same store weeks later, not with a mop, but with a badge clipped to my blouse, Director of Community Outreach. I found Teresa, my old coworker, dragging a trash bag. Her eyes widened. "Girl, is that you?" "You look like HR." I laughed. "I'm here to listen." And I meant it. We held the first open forum right there by the produce section, a circle of folding chairs and coffee. Ronnie, an older stalker, stood first. "Been here since '98. Got arthritis in both knees, but I still get written up for being slow." I wrote his name down. Then Carla spoke, voice cracking. "I asked for a schedule change to care for my grandma. They cut my hours instead." The room buzzed with years of swallowed pain finally spilling out. But not everyone liked it. Emails surfaced, managers calling me a symbol of misplaced guilt, complaining about too much empathy. Then Jordan from HR, a quiet guy with tired eyes, handed me a folder. "We've got fraud. stores claiming thousands in donations that never reached the shelters. My stomach turned. We dug deeper, and the deeper we went, the uglier it got. Expired goods relabeled for photo ops managers pocketing bonuses, retaliation against anyone who spoke up. That's when the threats started. A sticky note left on my desk. Back off. My office rifled through, security logs wiped. One night I met Andrew's mother for coffee. She looked me in the eye steady. You came here to clean floors, but now you're cleaning rot. Don't stop Maya. Push. We launched Project Cornerstone, a reform movement inside the company. For every stool behind a register, for every paycheck fixed, for every worker who felt seen, resistance doubled. A smear campaign accused me of misconduct, but the investigation cleared me and 3 executives resigned. My town hall speech went viral. Don't call cruelty policy, I said, hands trembling over the mic. Millions watched. NPR called. Suddenly, I was no longer a janitor with a bruised cheek. I was a problem for people who liked power quiet. One afternoon, I walked into the very store where it all began. They'd repainted, added a board called Employee Voices. And there was Tom, the man who'd slapped me stacking cereal boxes. He looked older, humbler. I don't know what I deserve, he said softly, but I'm trying to be better. I stared at him. Trying isn't enough if it's just for show. Do better because it's right. For once, he didn't argue. The threats escalated when I drafted the Fair Labor Dignity Act, a bill to protect workers statewide. Anonymous letters slipped under my door. A photo of Belle walking home alone appeared in my inbox. That's when I stepped onto the steps of Whitman HQ and told the world, I'm not fearless, but I will not be moved. My mother stood in the front row, hand over her heart. The next day, buses filled with workers and families lined the Capitol steps. Inside, the vote came down to a single senator, a man who looked straight at me and said, My father was a janitor. I vote yes. The chamber erupted. We had won by 1 vote. The backlash was immediate. Corporations threatened lawsuits. Conservative talk shows called me a maid with a microphone. But in Atlanta, stores changed. Workers finally had sick days, stools, schedules that honored their lives. A mural appeared on the wall near the employee entrance. Me hand outstretched, not holding a mop or a mic, just a door. Above it, if she walks, we follow. Months later, I spoke at a fancy CEO conference wearing my grandmother's earrings. I told them, you measure success in numbers. I measure it in dignity. The applause was slow, then stronger. A young executive approached me afterward. My mom was a cashier for 20 years, he said quietly. Thank you for saying what she never could. The law passed, but I knew the fight wasn't over. One night, Belle handed me a drawing stick figures climbing stairs, one wearing a crown made of stars. That's you, she said. A builder. I pulled her close, tears catching in my throat. Sometimes I still pass that mural at the store where it all started. I see the cashiers sitting when they need to, Teresa laughing in the break room, new hires walking taller. And I think about that slap, about how humiliation turned into a movement, about how one act of decency exposed a kingdom built on fear. I'm not done. Not yet. And maybe I never will be. But I'll keep walking toward the light, one store, one worker, one whisper at a time, because someone out there still thinks they're invisible. So tell me, have you ever stood up for someone when no one else would? Have you seen kindness change a room? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about what dignity really looks like, because if a janitor can spark change this big, imagine what you could do.